I was raped at Quarriers when I was a boy. Now I want justice. A rape survivor is calling for justice for victims of historic child sexual abuse at Quarriers. Sandy Smith, 68, has demanded a law change to help bring fiends who abused children decades ago before the courts. He was molested after being taken into the orphanage against age just 5. Sandy blasted rules which mean those who attack youngsters long ago may not face justice. He said, "We've carried this with us our whole lives. For me and for the countless others who have suffered, it's the least we deserve. Beasts who molest us and are still free to roam the streets. We need to protect the children of today." Sandy, who waived his right to anonymity, moved into Quarriers near Bridge of Weir more than 6 decades ago. He lived in a cottage, the name given to homes which house boys and girls. He stayed with 17 other lads overseen by a house father. Sandy told how there were molested moments of happiness there. We reveal all 4 years from the mysterious death of autism specialist Dr. Bradstreet. On June 19, 2015, Dr. Bradstreet was murdered for his knowledge and research into autism and GC math. Here we reveal the 4 suspects in this open case with findings from the family's private investigation. Whilst in their own words, we believe this is to be a professional hit. This article was written in collaboration with Dr. Bradstreet's family. The strain on them since his death has been immense, so much so that Tom Bradstreet, Jeff's kid brother, is now recovering from cancer. We wish him well and hope that this article may help give the same hope and support during these difficult times. If you stop to consider this timing here, an opportune time for a murder would be directly following an organised and timely raid from the DEA, Drugs Enforcement Agency, thus setting the scene for a quick cause of death to be concluded as suicide and so end the case. Is this not another clear sign that this was in fact a case of carefully premeditated murder? The Bradstreet family spoke to a good friend who shall remain anonymous, who spoke with the judge who approved the warrant, who spoke with the DEA agent who confirmed that there was never a case against Jeff. So the conclusion of suicide is entirely fabricated and reeks of a setup. I remain in contact with the Bradstreet family to this day, and may I say this is always a difficult time of year for them on the anniversary of Jeff's death. You see, another cure has been found and the doctor was murdered. And then you've got the one in this country, GC Math, who Lynn they've now locked up, pending her extradition to France to serve God knows how many years for curing cancer. David Noakes is also in the same situation, of course, friend of Lynn. Eggs that will hatch into genetically modified salmon arrive in the US. Evansville, Ind, May 30. Eggs to grow the first genetically engineered salmon for human consumption in the United States arriving this week in Indiana. The Atlantic salmon eggs, owned by Aqua Advantage of Massachusetts, were shipped from company's Canadian hatchery to one in Albany, Indiana. The company hopes to begin harvesting in late 2020, spokesman David Colney said. This is the first time in genetically modified food animal will be raised and sold in the US. The work is being done by Aqua Bounty Farms. The fish were engineered in the late 1980s by scientists at Canada's Memorial University to grow more rapidly than wild salmon. And they'll have all sorts of problems with them. Scientists accomplished this by adding a gene from the faster growing Chinook salmon and another promoter gene from an ocean pout, an eel-like fish found in the northwest Atlantic Ocean. That essentially keeps the salmon's growth hormone turned on. They grew amazingly fast, Gareth Fletcher, the scientist who created the salmon, told UPI in March. The first grow of market size to 16 to 18 months, by comparison with wild salmon taking 28 to 36 months, according to Aquavantage. More messing about with the natural order of things. UK arms sales to Saudi Arabia unlawful, Court of Appeal rules. The UK continued arms sales to Saudi Arabia for the use in Yemen's brutal war are unlawful, the Court of Appeal has ruled. Campaigners won the latest stage in their legal battle against the government over the conflict, where Saudi forces are accused of committing war crimes. The campaign against the arms trade, CAAT, argued that UK fighter jets and bombs are being used to kill civilians and violate international law. The High Court previously ruled in the government's favour, finding that it was rationally entitled to conclude that the Saudi-led coalition were not deliberately targeting civilians and was investigating reported incidents. CAT challenged the 2017 ruling and took fresh evidence from the Yemen conflict to the Court of Appeal. On Thursday, Master of the Rolls Sir Terence Etherton, Lord Justice Irwin and Lord Justice Singh concluded that it was irrational and therefore unlawful, and the International Trade Secretary to have licensed the weapons exports without assessing whether the past incidents are amounted to breaches of international human law, IHL. As usual, links are in the description if you want to read the full story. While Tories distract us with Brexit, the NHS has just slipped out a price list for treatments. Please don't say you weren't warned, because you've been warned time and time again. The Tories are stealthily privatising the NHS. This doesn't mean just handing over hospitals and NHS services to private firms. I mean stealthily introducing actual charges to NHS patients at point of need. This is all totally ignored by the mainstream press, of course. NHS trusts are now so confident they'll get away with it, they are openly publishing the first price list since the formation of the NHS for NHS operations, NHS procedures and NHS consultants. And there's the list, and it's wow. More evil by the criminal government. DWP probe into tragic 6-stone Stephen Smith insists department followed policy when repeatedly denying him vital benefits. They repeatedly followed the orders of the government, which was to kill him. An investigation into the treatment of 6-stone Stephen Smith, who was wrongly denied benefits before his death, has shockingly found that the DWP followed policy. The 64-year-old Liverpool man was repeatedly and incorrectly turned down for benefits while suffering with a number of serious illnesses before his death. Mr. Smith from Kensington died a short time after he was forced to get a pass out from hospital to overturn an incorrect decision to deprive him of vital benefits for several years. His range of debilitating illnesses meant that he had to fight the tribunal against the DWP, weighing just 6 stone and looking painfully malnourished. And after the decision was overturned, Mr. Smith was eventually paid back around £4,000 that he had wrongly been denied. But the award came too late, and instead of using the money to live on, it was used for his funeral after his death in April. Murder. The government are pure and simple murderers. 3G won't, 4G might, and 5G could definitely cause you harm. The technology of the world has constantly been on the ascension. You might be familiar with 2G, 3G, 4G available in India and how hard it is to get a good signal. Nevertheless, we might soon be able to tap into the privilege of the 5G network, which is said to be at least 10 times faster compared to 4G, and will only get a good signal from on top of a Qatar Minar. On a more serious note, the rapid rise of technology could lead to adverse effects on humanity. The 5G network is being investigated by Massey University of New Zealand for potentially dangerous electromagnetic radiation. Again, links in description if you want the full story. How Britain became the world's largest exporter of medical marijuana. But wait, Theresa May said it has no medical benefits. How Britain became a world leader in producing legal marijuana. If you were looking for an international drugs empire, Downham Market would not be the first place you'd think of. With a population of around 10,000, this sleepy fenland town is probably about as typical as they come. Typical, that is, apart from the smell. It was around 2 years ago that residents first noticed a distinct pungent scent which seemed to hang on the wind before eventually engulfing the town for several days. Now locals say the guests come and go, but when the odour first appeared, it was so strong that at least one resident phoned the police and complained about feeling nauseous. It turned out that the smell was coming from an 18-hectare cannabis plantation housed in some nearby industrial greenhouses, but this has no black market operation. The premises were owned by British Sugar, and the cannabis was being grown under licence from the Home Office, nor was it a small gig. Experts say that the Downham Market operation, which continues to this day, probably produces more than 90 tonnes of legal cannabis each year. So if you get a licence, you can produce it legally, but it's got no medical benefits apparently. And you can't grow it. Sounds fair? Not. Of course, cannabis remains a strict prohibited substance in Britain, having been upgraded to a Class B drug with possession pushed by 5 years in prison. But the last Labour government, how then it is a FTSE 100 company involved in harvesting gargantuan amounts of cannabis in the middle of East Anglia. Because, you know, one rule for them, a different rule for us. They can do what they like, we have to do what they say. It's called a dictatorship. Daily Fail. Why I finally fell for false fillers. But yes, it hurts. Amanda Platter. The BBC's disgraceful PM debate featured an anti-Israel imam who blames women for rape, a Labour apparatchik, and other nakedly anti-Tory guests, and still it won't apologise. No wonder it stands accused of being biased, brazen, contemptible. Express. She could have died after anger after granny's hit by royal convoy. Parasitic bastards, a lot of them. Who will go ahead to head with Boris? MPs accuse BBC of incompetence for failing to vet biased guests who grilled the leadership rivals. Storm over Tory TV debate. So they're upset because the questions apparently weren't scripted enough for them. It's on TV, it's all bullshit. Parasite there. Telegraph. Johnson hatches plot to knock out Gove. Tory frontrunner supporters could vote tactically as they hope for Hunt in final two. Really? Long to reign over us. No, not for much longer. Leadership candidates may boycott BBC for debate bias. BBC bias? Really? We all know that. Royal protection under review following crash. Russian-linked men face MH17 charges. Right. Surprised there weren't Iranian-linked men, because, you know, we can link them to anything. Woodford warned over bets on private firms. England finished top, but Scots pay penalty. The Guardian. Stewart exits Tory leadership race as Johnson pushes further ahead. Saudi air should face Khashoggi inquiry. UN. Murder charges brought over MH17. Aye. Indiana's downtown. Lavish new ITV period drama. God, jeez. Gove builds momentum, but Tories fear dirty tricks. Environment Secretary closes gap on Jeremy Hunt in the fight to join Boris Johnson in Tory leadership playoff. Rory Stewart ousted, and it hits out at dark arts of Johnson team. Concerned that tactical voting may be used to block Gove. They're all a waste of space. None of them are fit for purpose. The girl who aged 10 who has conquered El Capitan. Labour Brexit rift. Corbyn urged not to back toxic second vote. Saudi Crown Prince should face murder probe, says UN. Frostbites the polar bear who came in from the cold. Obesity in pregnancy raises risk of child diabetes. The cruel law that punishes rough sleepers. We live in an evil dictatorship and it's blatantly obvious. Metro. Boris face me over my jailed wife. Hunger striker issues challenge as would-be PM denies blame for Nazarin's plight in Iran. Oh my gosh. Another night in with Bros. Keep me in power. Trump's bid for 2020. Manslaughter arrest over Salah plane crash death. The scum. BBC blasted over bigots. Love our bullshit. Hathaway movie horror film set bloodbath. Knifeman stabs builder's throat in teabag row. Waste of paper. Flush floods. Brits hit by monsoon rain warned don't use your toilet for a week. Mirror. NHS hospital demands 18k from hip ops. Fury at trust sells private treatment that it used to offer free. Financial Times. Fed holds rates but dovish shift prepares ground for cuts. Move sparked by growth concerns meeting amid pressure for Trump. Charged. Dutch prosecutors accuse 4 men over downing of MH17. We work strikes blow for flexibility as HSBC takes up 1,135 desks in London. Chinese tourist helpist bans foreign hotel names. Well, absolute nothing in the papers whatsoever, and all the bullshit is just distraction from them selling the NHS, as you heard, and of course these four or five muppets all will be utterly controlled. They'll have the powers that were there that control all governments, no matter what, whether it's Conservative, Labour, it doesn't matter. They will have something on every single one of them candidates. So the same shit carries on regardless of who gets in. That's how this system works. And if you think Labour or Corbyn is any different, he's another controlled one because of his doings with the paedophilia in the 80s, which he protected. He's another one, controlled one, and the same shit will continue no matter who you vote for. The same shit carries on because the same bastards remain in charge, and the government, whichever one it is just a facade to make you think that your vote made a difference, when in actual fact it does absolutely nothing. Voted to leave Europe? Are we left yet?